Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us again for another show. And happy to have on board today Chad Spooner, the former longtime St. Albans City Council member, former longtime City Council president. And Chad, good to see you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for coming in. I thought you were hiking in from Franklin, but not yet. But you're a move to Franklin coming up for you folks?
Yeah, we're moving to Franklin end of June.
And I know your neighborhood. I've got some very good friends, shack house and cars in your neighborhood. That's a great part of town.
We enjoy it very much. We're near the end of a dead-end road. Love it.
Yeah. Well, interesting. So, and again, that, of course, is why you did not run for re-election at town meeting with the move to Franklin coming up.
That's correct. Yeah, we spent, my wife and I spent the summer of 2022 building our log home. So
is that right?
Yep.
So you guys built your home?
We built, pretty much built our entire home. We had a couple contractors for like the concrete, the counters, and the heat pumps. But besides that, we stacked logs and hung sheetrock.
Interesting. Heat pumps. Just mentioned Jonathan Giroux, who I interviewed yesterday, and back in the St. Albans Town Select Board chair. So Jonathan did some work out there.
Jonathan did my heat pumps, and I've texted him back and forth a couple times. Yeah. And I love Jonathan. He's a good guy.
Interesting. So where did Franklin come from? Do you guys have a Franklin connection?
No Franklin connection. My wife was looking for a camp years ago, and in 2010, 2011, we looked on Fairfield Pond, we looked on Crystal Lake. She wanted something that was close enough that if we needed to come home, we could come home to.
Crystal Lake in Barton?
Yeah, we were looking any place that we really could find, and then a place was on Lake Carmine, and we snatched it up. It's a great neighborhood.
It is. No, I know that neighborhood very, very well. And my friends, the O'Sheas, I guess Brendan's still down there once in a while, but yeah, I can go back, hate to say it, about half a century up here, and it was Buzzy O'Shea, who I'd met in college, and his father Bun, who were good enough to get me going up here. But no, it sounds like you have a nice part of the world. Boy, have you got a feel? Boy, Lake Carmine is kind of, again, in the St. Albans area better than me, but for years, St. Albans Bay seemed to be the poster child for water quality problems in Vermont lakes and stuff, and then kind of I think maybe Missisquoi Bay kind of supplanted that, and it seems like in recent years Lake Carmine might be the kind of the poster child. I know they tried the aeration system. I'm sure you have some feel for that. How are things with the Carmine these days? Yeah,
the aeration system is, I believe, going to be shut down.
Is that right? Shut down?
They're going to try for the alum treatment, but it is over $2 million, so it'll be a couple years for that.
Wow.
Pete's a great guy to have on if you ever want to have someone on to talk about the lake.
The Lake Carmine can. In fact, he'd be a good person to get on.
Yeah. But I think there's hope. Last year, even with all the rain we had, it was better than the year before, which seemed to start really early.
Yeah.
So I think Lake Carmine is small enough that they can actually make an impact and not spend, $500 million on a couple $1 million, and you can have make a huge improvement. It's the lifeline really of the area. So Franklin area.
It's a great place. In fact, someone you may or may not know, but Bryant Reynolds. If you haven't met Bryant yet, a very close friend of mine who's lives on the middle road in Franklin.
Yep.
But he's got a camp on the north end. But we'll probably run into him sometime. But a really good guy. But no, the Carmine's great. It's I wish it well, and I know a lot of people. The Campers Association have put a lot of effort into. So I hope better times are ahead for it. But backing up, how many years on the city council for you, Chad?
15.
15.
15 years.
And most of those years as city council president?
12 of them, yep.
12 out of 15, that's pretty impressive.
Yep. My first year was Dave Pierce, and then Scott Corrigan, then Joe.
Oh, wow.
Luno. Yep.
Interesting. So good, and I know you didn't exactly get rich. In fact, I'm a longtime St. Albans City resident. I'm the only person I'll periodically say I think it's insane. Of course, you guys, the city, we used to give you $10 a month, and then that got dropped out, so nothing. I mentioned that to some people when I mentioned, especially the mayor, and they don't believe me. The mayor gets nothing, and you guys get nothing.
That is correct.
I mean, I think that's insane. Not that I would look for you to, the city to pay big bucks, but I think it's insane. I mean, most towns pay the select board and school board members something. But again, good luck getting people to spend money that they don't have to spend, I guess. Is that an issue for you? Of course, when I talk to some folks, they said, Richard, we're volunteers anyway, but geez, what about that issue? Do you think there should be a few bucks.
That is one of the things I asked to put on the agenda for this
Really?
coming year.
Really?
It's one of those tricky situations where I didn't want to touch upon when I was there,
Yeah,
because people
sure.
say it's self-motivated.
Because the legislature's been running into that. I think last year when that came up, and well, this would be a pay raise down the road and stuff, but a lot of people, I'm not sure they ever did anything about that.
I am not sure
Anyway,
either.
so
But-
you thought about pushing that.
I think it should be pushed just for
Yeah.
an equity issue. I mean,
Yeah.
the entire time I was on the council, I don't think we had, maybe Aaron O'Grady was the only single parent,
Huh.
but we don't have single parent. I mean, you're basically would be losing money
Yeah.
if you're on the city council, because you have to pay someone for a daycare
Sure,
or
not to
something.
mention-
So
yeah.
it'd be wonderful to have something so
Yeah.
you could do that or take, I mean, I don't know how many ball games I missed and school
Sure,
functions
ton.
we missed, so at least
Huh.
something to compensate you
Yeah.
for those kind of things.
I totally, I would love to be voting yes for that. We'll see if it ever comes up. Did you count how many meetings? Boy, 15 years. I'm almost afraid to ask you, did you keep track of that, or maybe you didn't keep
I don't
track of that?
I don't keep track of it. Of course, there's more in January and February when it's around budget time,
Right.
and then there's a lot of other things that people don't think about.
Yeah,
The first, I don't know, 10, 11 years I was there, you actually have to go in 2 or 3 times a month to sign checks and go
Really?
over checks. So
Yeah.
there were a couple hours that you do that every month.
yeah,
Then there's Board of Civil Authority that you're a member of. So it's
Yeah.
not just the one time a month that
Sure.
people may see you.
Sure.
Town select boards 2 times a month. A lot of select boards are 2 times a month. So it's
Yeah.
not just those meetings.
yeah.
There's a lot of other meetings going on. And of course, when
And your committee meetings and
Yep,
stuff, more
committee
meetings.
meetings, and obviously when we had the TIF, when we were starting the TIF, there were
Yeah.
a lot of meetings around TIF.
Yeah,
And honestly, Richard, I don't know how many hours I spent on social media trying to debunk
really?
myths and get facts straight. So there were a couple events. The pool was one of them. The TIF was another one. I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time on social media, hours every night,
do you
trying
think
to
that?
present
well,
facts.
And again, as I've said on other shows, I don't go near social media. I have enough problems with regular media, such as it is these days, but boy, it sounds pretty painful. Maybe we'll get into the Swanton situation, a huge issue up there too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you made any progress in trying to counter some of the stuff you'd see on social media?
You know you're making progress
Yeah.
when you see other people saying, "Hey, so and so said what
maybe
you're
you have
saying
a-
isn't true."
Maybe, is that
Yeah,
right?
so that's when
some
you know
progress.
you're started to crack the armor a little bit.
Wow.
But
But again,
rumors
folks
spread.
can throw out just whatever they
And-
want, and anonymous. Do some people identify themselves?
yeah, a
or-
lot of people do.
Okay, but you don't have to,
There-
obviously.
but there's no consequences. I mean,
Right.
you
Wow.
can say what you want. Someone will debunk it, and you just move to the next thing.
Wow. When did that start? When did that start becoming? When did social media start really kicking in?
Probably, I would say 10 years ago.
Was that for about half of your tenure
yeah.
at least?
Yeah. Before that, there was a lot of phone calls and emails, and
Right.
after that, it was a lot of messages on social media. You're easy to find too, which
Yeah.
is really nice. So
Yeah. Boy, interesting. But just a lot of, I hear it from and certainly any officials, just a lot of misinformation and stuff.
it's a good platform for debate, and
Yeah.
when people have their facts,
Yeah.
it's good to debate the because
So there is some good stuff. There's
Yeah.
some of this is positive.
yeah, I mean we can state for a fact that a normal car has 4 wheels, but that's a fact. But let's debate the size of the tire or
Yeah.
how big the rim needs to be or something like that. Instead, someone will put there's only 3 wheels on a car,
Yeah.
or that my car has 5 wheels, and
Wow.
so anyway, it is interesting. There's the pros and cons.
Yeah, interesting. We'll get back into all kinds of stuff, but tell us about your family and background. I know Vermont Health Department, a long-time employee.
Yeah, so I work at the health department now, but I grew up in
Right.
St. Albans, grew up on Cedar Street. My parents
Really?
still live in the house that
Really?
I grew up on,
Really?
and went to Vermont Technical College for
Huh.
4 years.
Wow.
And after right out of college,
And BFA graduate?
graduated from BFA, St. Albans City School, BFA.
Interesting.
And then right after college, I worked for a company called Teradyne out of IBM. And after 14 years of working 12-hour nights and burning all my vacation
Is
time.
that 12-hour
Yep,
shifts?
7 to 7, yep. And
Well, that's-
I was volunteer coaching in Sheldon where
Wow.
one of my kids was going. And of course, I was on the city council at the time. So I didn't go on vacation for years with my family because all my vacation time was
Literally,
spent.
literally, not for years.
Yep. So then my wife said, you need to find a new job. And so found a job right here. It was in St. Albans at the time. Now I work in Waterbury.
I mean, boy, you work in Waterbury remotely?
Yeah, remotely most of the time, but
Most of the time.
yeah. So director of field operations. So
Wow.
I visit all 12 district offices in the state. So I could
Wow.
be in Bennington one day, Rutland the next
Really?
day. Yeah,
So almost every county has an office?
almost every
My
county.
guess,
Yep.
my guess
Northeast
for my
Kingdom.
camp is Essex County probably doesn't have an office.
No, the Northeast Kingdom, they have two. There's one in St.
Couple.
Johnsbury and one in Newport.
Newport,
but-
of course.
Yeah, but and
Huh.
St. Albans covers Grand
Grand Isle
Isle,
County.
Franklin. Yep.
Boy, that sounds like a good big job, huh?
It's an interesting job. It keeps
Yeah.
me busy. I've always enjoyed being connected to the community.
Yeah.
And when I moved from my emergency preparedness job here in the St. Albans district office,
Yeah.
I went to another job I was the emergency preparedness chief in the health department, and I
Wow.
lost that connection to the community.
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of people in central office, so came back to local health again and really enjoy it. So I get to hear about all the great things happening in the communities
Yeah.
all throughout the state. So a lot of good things happening
Boy, it sounds like a great job. Boy, a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift earlier on.
in my career. Yeah.
Boy, that's
A lot of people did it.
Is that right? Did
Yeah.
you get used to that? Was that
No, the nights was hard because I would get home on Wednesday morning and
Yeah.
want to sleep on Wednesday night with
Yeah.
the family, so I'd stay up all day Wednesday.
Wow.
And then same when I went to work either on Saturday or Sunday night, I would stay up the entire day, work all night, and then come home so I could sleep during the day.
How many days a week was that?
3 or 4 days.
3 or 4. I was
So
going to
it's-
say.
yeah.
I hope not more than 3 or 4.
Three one week, 4
Wow.
the next. Yeah.
Boy, that sounds tough.
Yeah.
I had a Christmas post office job up here, maybe 5 to 10 years ago at the big Essex facility, but that was an overnight shift. I had never done that before. Never just barely getting home like at 6 a.m. a couple times.
Yeah. Well, the scary part is
Wow.
like when I was living in Enosburg at the time, so there
Yeah.
was a short period I lived in Enosburg. But
Huh.
I would drive through Bakersfield, and I don't remember driving through
I hear
Bakersfield.
ya.
You just get on the other side, so
Yeah. Wow.
it is kind of scary. So
Well, I'm glad you survived that. Okay, obviously.
no accidents, no hit deer,
Well,
nothing. So
Good
I got
for you.
lucky.
Good for you. So how did you happen to run for the city council the first time around?
I showed up for a meeting. They were talking about noise ordinance. Peter Chevalier was on
Were
the
you down around Houghton Park, living
Yep,
around Houghton Park?
yep,
then?
live right across from Houghton Park.
Okay.
My neighbor was Peter Chevalier, so
Oh,
I showed up at a
really?
meeting about noise
Huh.
and had some questions about that.
Huh.
Peter had been on there for about 5.5 years, was looking to get done,
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey, I think you should run." So
And again, this is Ward
6. Yep. So I did. I ran unopposed the first time.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Did you ever have any opposition?
I did. So after my first term, I did. Will Horrigan ran against me.
Okay.
Really good guy.
Huh, interesting.
Yep.
Only time you
Only
had an
time I
opponent?
had opposition. Yep.
Interesting. Well, I think back to Jim Hughes, who I'm actually interviewing, our former longtime state's attorney. I think Jim, in his long career as state's attorney, I don't think he ever had an opponent. But well, sounds like you fared pretty well.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't know your successor. Do you know your successor on the council?
Chad, I do not know.
Chad-
We've
Chad
changed. Yeah,
Boud-
we're talking about social media. We've exchanged.
Chad Boudreau?
Yep,
I
yep.
haven't met Chad.
Yeah, we've exchanged Facebook messages
Right, I
a
trust
couple
he
times.
was talking to you about some stuff.
Yep. And I had a complaint for him not too long ago. So I
And,
sent
it,
him
and of course, no one filed. You obviously announced you
Yep.
weren't running again, but I guess he had shown some interest late in the campaign or
late.
something.
Yeah, really late.
Too late to get on the ballot.
Too late to get on the
obviously.
ballot. Yep. So
Interesting.
folks I knew recommended they write him in,
Huh.
but I know I voted for him. So I
But
wrote his
didn't
name.
get enough write-in. But
Didn't get enough
But it
write-in.
sounds like an easy pick for the council to pick him, having shown interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
he's your successor, and of course, a new city council member in Ward 5 with Eric Johnson
Yep.
succeeding Bob Farrar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking forward to interviewing those folks. I tried to interview candidates in contested races and got a call from Bob Farrar pretty late in the campaign saying Richard can't do it. Apparently, possibly a conflict with his judgeship.
Yep.
Sounded kind of strange to me that someone would say there'd be a conflict there, but what do I know?
I have no idea either.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. The new city council president, I think I asked Mayor Smith that the other day. Who
I gotta believe it's Tim Hawkins.
I think
I
he said
I
Tim.
would believe
Boy,
it's
my
Tim.
memory is so shaky. I think I asked the mayor that. I think it's Tim Hawkins. Actually, I saw Tim at the senior center last Saturday doing some green up day duty. Got some green bags from Tim.
Good.
Anyway, And again, I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't, we're taping this show on Wednesday, November 8th, in case there's some obvious issue that might come up that why didn't you ask Chad about that? But anyway, so the city council, so a pretty, it's just a ton of time, but you look back on that as a pretty positive thing for you?
I do. It was really tough at the first year.
Yeah.
Of course, I came on. The budget had failed the first year.
In fact, I was just thinking in my mind that must have been when I think Mayor Marty Manahan with the downsizing
of the fire department. So we actually passed a budget that first year that I was on the council with an increased budget.
Wow.
So that was that, and then we had we were debating. We were debating with the town about the water sewer.
Boy, imagine that issue coming up. Yeah, we'll talk. Interesting. So that's the last budget that failed in the city.
That is, yep.
Yeah, the downside.
I think it might be honestly, Richard, it might be the last article that failed. I don't think we failed an article since.
Nothing comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Boy, I guess the school budget, which of course is not just St. Albans City, but Maple Run had a pretty close vote, I think, for the first time.
It was like
and
100.
Of course, school budget is another, the school, just the education funding crisis, all kinds of issues out there. So pretty positive experience on the council.
Yep. And actually, the year I got elected on the council, my wife got elected on the school board for St. Albans City, and she spent, I think, 9 years on city school board. Yep.
Boy, you guys, that's incredible public service.
Yep.
So your tenure pretty much closely coinciding with Dominic Cloud. Was Dominic not quite on board?
He was. I think he had been on board maybe, I want to say a year.
Oh, so just
somewhere right around a year.
Ahead.
Yep.
I got to get him in here. I haven't given Dominic nearly as much attention as I should have. Boy, and what's a typical tenure for a city manager, town manager in the state? I'm guessing probably not more than 5 years or so.
I have no idea. We've been lucky.
Yeah.
Dominic has great vision.
Yeah. So pretty solid guy.
Yeah. And Richard, when I left,
I'm sure issues come up, but he's
yeah. When I was leaving the city council, I specifically stated, a lot of the stuff probably would have happened with or without me, and a lot of it's Dominic, Chip, Sarah, Tom, Peggy. That group did a fantastic job over the years. Yeah,
sounds like a pretty and pretty stable leadership, pretty good stability with kind of the top positions in the city.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. Yep. I guess I'm trying to think. I guess Plattsburgh was Mayor Rosenquist. I guess he's not running again for mayor, but running for the Plattsburgh council. But I guess he threw out, hey, I think we should maybe go over to a city manager form of governor instead of strong form of government instead of strong mayor and stuff. But city manager, that seemed like, does that ever, I'm trying to think if anybody's, maybe it's come up a few times. Say, why do we have a city manager? Why don't we have a strong mayor? City manager, you think the way to go?
I think it's the way to go. You hire someone that's specialized in that, a mayoral. It's an elected position. I mean, we can see some of the things that are happening in Burlington around that. But I personally like that, and it's worked well for here in St. Albans.
Yeah. So you think city government functions pretty well in St. Albans for St. Albans City?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess the ward boundaries were changed a while back. There's some change just because of population trends.
Yep. So a couple years ago,
did Ward 6? Did you have to add some more territory for Ward 6? Or
we added half a street, half Edward Street. So just the way there was a kind of a zigzag.
Right on the edge of St. Albans town, of course.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So there was that, but there was a lot of change in Wards 1. I think it was Wards 1.
I'm a Ward 1 guy.
Yeah, Ward 1 had a big change. Some of Ward 5, some of the upper wards. My ward was just one little street.
Do you think the ward, does that still make sense to go that route? Just thinking in the last election when nobody filed, when you announced you weren't running again, would it make more sense to have 6 at-large councilors? Do you think?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that.
No.
Does that come up? Has that issue come up?
That's never
at all?
come up. It's come up with the school
Maybe
board.
With the school board,
because there were a lot of people from Smith High Street area.
Right.
What happens down on what happens on Russell Street or I'll just say South Elm or North Elm is very different than what's happening up on Messenger or Bishop
or I am up there.
Yeah. So I prefer the wards.
Yeah. So that issue there was never much talk about that.
No.
Interesting.
We've never had a blank spot for very long.
Yeah, interesting. So how many mayors? So you had Mayor Manahan, you had Mayor
Gamache.
And Mayor Gamache. Not you missed on Peter Deloria. Did you miss on?
I missed Peter. Yep.
Just missed Peter.
Yeah.
Interesting. And Tim Smith hanging in there. I guess Tim started sometimes I'm a term off. I think he just started his fourth 2-year term, I believe.
Yeah. I think Marty was 6 years. Liz was 6 years.
And Peter still has the record. I think Mayor Smith has said, I'm not looking to break Peter's record, but no, I think, again, as someone who's covered, especially in my full-time reporting days up to about 2000, I'm impressed. Seems like city government works pretty well. Boy, the city, talk about changes in 15 years. St. Albans, I remember I moved to St. Albans. I'd been living out in West Swanton, started in Enosburg Falls, courtesy of the O'Sheas and the County Courier. No, sadly no longer with us. I don't know if there's anything online there. I'm not aware of it, but the paper itself is gone.
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, but I remember I moved into St. Albans circa 1984 or so, and some of my good friends from Enosburg, Montgomery area were incredulous. You're moving to St. Albans, Richard, are you? And again, some of my early years up here, some tough times. Heavy unemployment. I came in right at the kind of the very end of the Paul Lawrence affair.
Yep.
But some tough times for the city. But boy, it sounds like St. Albans gets some pretty good words. Renaissance revival, but downtown's got some pretty good life. But your thoughts? A big change in your 15 years.
Yeah, huge change. Yep. So right when I first came in, I was just kind of learning the ropes. We had you had Scott Corrigan, you had Jet Forlow, of course you have Marty Manahan. You had some people with some good vision. Yeah. And of course we had Dominic. So once and Main Street, I won't say it was dead, but Main Street was hurting. Yeah. And then once Dominic came and there was discussion about TIF, and so it was like the moon and the sun aligned. It was it was like perfect timing.
Did that mean anything to you? That issue before Dominic started talking about it? Had you known?
I had never heard of TIF before
again,
Dominic started
for tax increment financing.
Yep. I had never heard of it, and it took a long time to. It's very complex, and it's hard to understand. So it took a while to understand, but it's a great tool. I know there's some folks in the state that that don't think so.
I've mentioned on this show, on different shows a few times that I realized Dominic Cloud and Doug Hoffer, the state auditor, don't exchange Christmas cards. I don't.
No, they're at odds about TIF. Yeah.
Interesting, but that sounds like that has been a key, and kudos especially to Mylan, or is it Viatris?
It's Viatris now,
Viatris now, and the co-op. Two key
and the state as well.
And the state.
Yep.
Sorry, and the state, obviously.
The state moving their office.
But this seems to this really was a key. And I guess there might be one more TIF coming with the housing by City Hall. Is that
yep.
I think TIF related?
Yep, we're done voting on TIF.
That off,
yep,
right.
Yeah, we're done voting on TIF. So we have that one project that passed, and it's quite a transformation. Of course, I'm sure you've chatted about housing and the housing needs in the community. So
yeah, it sounds like St. Albans City. I talked to Mayor Smith about that the other day. It sure seems like St. Albans City seems to be doing its share. Of course, you have the huge apartment complex down on Lake Street that's coming up. I've run into a few concerns, just kind of the scope of that kind of. You running into any concerns? In fact, is that Ward 6?
That is not Ward 6. Ward 6 is on the other side of the street.
Other side of the street.
That is Marie Bassett's ward.
Okay.
I don't have any concerns with it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's the tallest building in the city.
Yeah.
It's a blighted area, so it's going to be really helpful.
Of course, there's 72 units. I
think?
Think.
And then possibly some others behind. So
really?
Yep. So
wow.
If that comes to fruition,
wow.
It will be great. So some retired housing in the back area possibly. So that would be great. And then
I got to thank the good folks at the Beverage Mart. My friend Ross Arsenella. They're probably not looking forward to the completion of that too much. Huh?
There's pros and cons, right? There's people that living next door that are going to use his facility, of course. Go to his place for food and stuff. So.
But no, it's probably nice to see that part of the city getting some
Yeah.
getting some attention. So that sounds very solid to you, very good.
I mean, it was a Cadillac dealer when I was growing up. I
Oh,
can
no,
remember the
really?
Buick's parked there, so.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Of course, Dave
That's where
Handy's
Handy's
one of
was,
on our sports show. Dave Handy's one of our weekly is with us every week on the sports show. So interesting. So that's that's a big project. I guess Cathedral Square is looking for the old Fonda Solo site,
Yep.
some Cathedral Square
and
going over there.
That'll be nice as well.
Yeah.
So, again, that's folks that are 55 plus.
Right.
So they need a place. There's a lot of people that if they can get out of their current house that may be too big, maybe they're in a 3 or 4 bedroom that we can get a younger family in.
And freeing up a house, obviously.
Exactly. Yep.
Interesting.
I keep trying to talk my parents into a condo. But
Oh, is that
no? My dad just complains all summer about mowing.
Oh,
and
is that
everything.
right?
Yeah.
Interesting. And the apartment sounds like the new apartments across from the library. It sounds like that's worked out pretty well.
Yep. I think it was a little rough at first. There
Yeah.
was there were some complaints, not so much with the Butterfield project,
Yeah.
but some of the Champlain housing. But I think
Yeah.
the good thing about Champlain housing, if you bring it to their attention, they're really good
Yeah.
at responding. So I think they responded well, and things seem to be a little better now.
Interesting. So obviously big changes. Any changes for the any concerns about the kind of new look to St. Albans, Chad?
No.
Is it all pretty good? All
No,
pretty positive?
yeah. Some of the big things I pushed over the years were
Yeah.
the sidewalks.
Right.
So of course we spent a lot of money on sidewalks.
Yeah.
I see, not just the adults walking up and down the sidewalks, but you see a lot of kids on sidewalks now,
Yeah.
which is really good. And the other thing that we really needed to address was the pool. So, having the new pool is absolutely fantastic.
In fact, I talked to Kelly Viens and Isaac Bashaw yesterday. Talked a lot of pool, but no, it sounds like the pool, boy, maybe, if anything, has maybe even exceeded expectations. Of course, the first vote was St. Albans Town, a very narrow defeat in the town, decisive approval in the city, and then the city, I guess, some changes were made, and you brought it back a year later, and just city, and again, another decisive vote. But do you deal with the pool? Is that something you folks? It's funny. I grew up on salt water near Boston. I'm a saltwater guy, but I told Kelly, if you don't see me next winter in that pool, come after me. But
Yep.
no, I'm impressed. It sounds like I guess the bubble dome's coming off in a couple
Pretty
weeks.
soon,
But
yep.
no, I'm impressed. Just the numbers those folks threw at me and all the programs they have. Sounds like and Hard Act.
It's Hard Act,
like
yeah.
another so I guess it's officially the Hard Act pool.
Yep.
But boy, what an incredible resource out there. I said, hey, any hope for some more tennis courts? And she said, who knows in the future? And I guess I always hear some talk about maybe another skating rink, hockey rink. I guess, do you hear much talk? Has that come up?
Not yet. Admittedly, Richard, when we were talking about the pool, I tried all I could do to keep it in the city. It's one of those things that I'm glad I didn't get my way, because I think it fits up there
Did you
very
want
well.
it in the same place? Did you want it in the same?
I didn't think it would fit in the same place,
Okay,
but there were
but
some
you
other
wanted to keep
sites
it
I
in the
wanted to
city.
keep it. Yeah, but I think
Interesting.
when looking back now, I think this is a
Yeah.
great location for it.
Yeah.
You see it as you drive by,
Yeah,
so it draws a lot of interest.
yeah.
But
Interesting.
yeah.
And we talked about it yesterday. The city pool, boy, the city got its money's worth out of the city pool. I mean, way more years than they probably expected to. But I guess now filled in, but city pool, served the city pretty well.
Yeah, I learned to swim in the fountain
No.
in Taylor Park.
And-
That's where I
and
learned
the
to
fountain,
swim. That's where I learned to swim.
Interesting. Wow. So the pool sounds like it's worked out pretty well.
I think it's worked out well, and of course,
Yeah.
Hardak is a wonderful facility.
Yeah.
Hiking trails.
Yep,
They've
I'm
had a couple
kind of on
NAAs.
the other side of it, but the hiking trails are great.
Yep.
Great place to walk.
Yeah, and they've had the NCAA there a couple times
Yeah.
for meets. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
So what would you like anything missing? I mean, when you look at St. Albans City now, what were the things you'd like to see in the future, in the not too distant future, or changes?
Yep.
Any particular things come to mind?
No, I think we're getting there. We're on the right track.
Yeah.
Of course, housing is one of the things I would like to see.
Yeah.
There's things that we'll never fix. It's not a St. Albans City problem. It's not a Vermont problem. It's a nation problem. But
Yeah.
things like drugs would be
Yeah.
good. But I think the city and town going together on the police contract and that's gonna
Back
that's
to
gonna
bring,
add quite
I
a
just
bit.
wrote down historic agreement, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna bring quite a bit to the community. That's gonna be great. That's gonna
Yeah.
be great.
Interesting. Yeah, that's obviously a big issue, July 1st. We're not too far away from St. Albans City PD kind of retaking command in St. Albans town.
Yep.
How, I ran into a town resident the other day who said, Richard, staffing's not going as well as it should, but talking to other folks, I'm not hearing that. Have you got a handle on that? Does it sound you don't have a handle
I don't
on
have
that?
a handle on that.
Yeah.
No. So I think there were additional 4 police officers that were going to be added
I guess so that's
because of
what they
that
were looking
contract.
for.
Yeah, there's shortage of police everywhere.
sorry.
I mean, everywhere. So
As with everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
Labor shortage, talk
Yeah.
about, what about health, talking about that issue, Vermont Health Department, is that an issue for you folks as well?
yeah, to some extent,
Some
yes.
extent.
Housing is we've
Yeah,
talked about
sure.
that. We've had people that have wanted to come to the health department. We've extended job offers.
Yeah, and
We
just can't
have
find a
nowhere to move
place.
to.
Boy, I hear that story all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, have I heard from, is it Betsy Bishop with the Vermont Chamber? Have I heard the stat Vermont really needs 40,000 more housing units or some incredible stat? I mean,
Yeah. It
Boy.
is amazing. Honestly, when we drive back and forth to Franklin, sometimes we go through Highgate.
yeah.
There's
In
probably
fact, you're
10
probably gonna-
abandoned houses.
I did that this morning. You're probably not going to be going, through Highgate a lot with the work on Route 105.
Yeah, that's our
And
way to go.
I'm not sure I'm going to be on 105 anytime. I guess, 8 miles out of St. Albans City into Sheldon?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Highgate's going to be getting a lot of my attention going to Franklin.
Yep.
So you think St. Albans, looks like it's, headed in the right direction. A lot of positive stuff.
Yep. And obviously, I've always been a big proponent of parks. So continue. If you drive by Houghton Park right now, you'll see they've
In
ripped out
fact,
the
I
basketball
certainly did.
courts.
In fact, my friend Claire Launchman, the sister of the former sheriff,
Yep.
played tennis with Claire, and she was a nurse, nursing it. She had a shift at 7 a.m. last summer at Northwestern Medical Center, so we played more than a little tennis at 5:30 a.m. on Houghton Park, in
Yep.
fact. And she mentioned on my road trip, Richard, we're not playing at Houghton Park for a while.
Not
I
for a
went
little
by
bit.
the other day, in fact, finally got around to asking Kelly Vian. So, yeah, level now. So I guess the plan is to come back with a new basketball court, and for the 2 tennis courts, 1 new tennis court, and 3. One of my pickleball friends said 3. They're not going to get 3 pickleball courts on 1 old tennis court, but that's what.
I think they're putting them
Well,
sideways.
the
So,
sideways.
yeah, that would be my guess as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what Kelly told me. So
Interesting.
the project's a little more expensive, I think, than they were hoping, but
that right? But we'll move ahead. She said.
we're moving
she thought
ahead, yeah.
Completion by midsummer or so.
yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a big improvement for the area.
Interesting. Yeah, as again, someone who plays tennis down there, and pickleball's probably in my future, but yeah, we were joking kind of the Wimbledon of St. Albans with grass starting to come up through the cracks of the tennis court. So, no, that's great for tennis and pickleball player. Those would be the first designated pickleball courts, I think, around here.
Yeah, I think so too. And then you were talking
Interesting.
about hockey. A couple of years ago,
Yeah.
they did try to put a rink on there, but it never got cold enough for long enough to
Right.
have a rink.
I think, Kelly mentioned that was getting maybe or maybe at Hardwick too, and it'd be nice to have at least an outdoor rink.
Yeah.
I've gotten back into skating. I would love that. And I asked her about the playground at Houghton Park, which I used to deal with some folks. And she said, I think we're in pretty good shape, maybe a few changes, but she mentioned that the folks around there were hoping that they didn't go too crazy to have an influx of a lot more people. And you can relate to that from you. In fact, I can remember, I think, talking to you about Houghton Park issues.
Yep. No, Houghton Park's been great the last few years. There's the proponents and the opponents of the broken window
Right.
theory.
Yeah.
But put a lot of energy into Houghton Park. It looks really good.
Yeah. Of
It's
course,
being
the
utilized.
Steelers, of course. that's
Lacrosse
their-
is there too as
lacrosse
well.
is
Yeah,
there?
lacrosse is there right
Wow.
now. So the more people that are there, the less trouble you have, honestly. So we see a lot of the park's getting used. It's really good.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Of course, not a ton of parking, which I'm sure is a concern for some of the neighbors, but.
Yeah, there's 30, 40 spots.
No, is that
So,
right?
Yeah.
Well, that's aside from probably Steelers football, that's probably adequate most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Belly bought the old immigration building, so folks do park in there sometimes.
just
They've
about to
been
ask you
really
about that.
nice. Yeah.
The Gil Tabor complex, what USCIS, I guess, Customs and
Yep.
Immigration Service. I actually knew, the folks I live with out in West Swanton, the lady just heard, lost him. Just my old friend Bill Wiesel died, but he was a border guy who flipped over to the State Department and knew Gil Tabor well, so I met Gil a couple times.
Yep.
And boy, that was a big loss.
Big
St. Albans,
loss.
one of just 4 or 5 places having around the country with. Anyway, boy, I know some folks say, boy, if Senator Leahy was still with us, maybe things would have turned out differly. But hey, Pat
No, I don't
hung in
think
for a
so.
long time.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
they would have turned out just like.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of those folks, I guess, some moved to Essex, or just a lot of those folks just work
A
remotely.
lot of those work from home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife used to work there. Now
Oh,
she
really?
pretty much works from home. Yep.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. But St. Albans did pretty well. But again, still a lot of those folks are still up here.
Yep.
And I guess the downtown state office building, that was a big, obviously a big issue that I guess worked out pretty well.
Yep. Moved to Federal Street, another area that wasn't that great. And
Yeah.
of course we got the with the hotel and
Yeah.
with the hotel we get the parking garage,
Yeah.
which I mean I drive through there sometimes and it's pretty. I won't say it's full, but
I guess they've had
pretty
some issues with that, but I guess it's
Gates.
worked out pretty well.
yeah.
And boy, I flash back to a long ago time in San Francisco with a lady friend, and against my better judgment, we were in Fisherman's Wharf,
Yeah.
driving all day from L.A. Hey, let's have some fun. Parked in a parking garage for no more than 2 hours, and of course, stupid me. And early on in my trips, I had a sedan, which I still have. Love having a trunk. All our stuff was in the back seat. Came back to a smashed out
Yeah.
back window in a parking garage. So anyway, but it sounds like that's worked pretty well.
Yeah, it's worked well, and we go out to eat downtown, and we park in the
Yeah.
garage. I don't have to mess around,
No, is that right?
circling the block 5
Yeah.
times.
Good.
It's not that far of a walk.
Yeah.
It's 50 yards to most of the restaurants,
Yeah.
50 to 100 yards, so it's not too far.
And I
so.
guess the downtown hotel, Hampton Inn, has fared pretty
Yeah,
well, I guess.
think
huh?
it fared well even through the pandemic.
Interesting.
It did okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, talk about downtown. I mean, having a downtown hotel, and of course, talking to Kelly VN. So the city, again, I've mentioned to a bunch of people, the Weldon Theater and the Gamashes are all friends of mine up here. Mary was probably my first St. Albans friend. But I said, hey, you just can't believe, that St. Albans, with its small size, has a downtown theater. That's unbelievable.
Mhm.
So are you happy the city took command of that? Did you have any second thoughts about that?
No, I'm glad
No?
we did. Probably one of our biggest complaints we've heard is
Yeah.
there's not a lot of things for young kids to do.
Sure.
So the pool and the Weldon were 2 big things that we
Right.
wanted to keep.
Yeah.
I would like to see. I'm not sure the Weldon's going to look like it does now 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it more of a hybrid.
And I think I think Kelly and those folks are thinking about that. Maybe
yeah,
having like a theater.
stage
a
theater.
stage,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think that would be. I mean, we have
Yeah.
the pack at the BFA, but it's hard
Yeah.
for normal people to use
Right.
it. Of course, we have City Hall, the gym at City Hall.
Yeah.
Again, it's not suited greatly for that, but I think a great little theater. They're all around. I've sent a couple examples to Kelly and Dom
Yeah.
when I was on the council of other that have a little theater /
Yeah.
playhouse kind of thing. Yeah.
That's right. But you saw that as a good. Was that
yeah.
unanimous? Did anybody on the council have any concerns about that?
Not that I can remember.
Really?
I think it was pretty unanimous. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And again, the idea is to get it fixed up, get the apartments,
Yeah.
making payments so someone can afford having the theater and
Yeah.
having the apartments pay for
Yeah.
the building.
Yeah. And I know Kelly Viens and company did some serious work in there. They were working very hard, but it looks great.
Yeah.
But incredible research. It's unbelievable that's there.
I mean, we lost the drive-in. Don't want to lose
Yeah.
it. Don't want to lose the
Boy, I
Weldon.
never got my kid to the drive-in. I feel bad about that. Never got him out there, but interesting. Boy, so a lot of stuff still going on in St. Albans. I guess downtown. I mean, retail. Obviously, hardly the best times for retail, but you think downtown's hanging in reasonably well?
I think they are, and I think the events that we've had, the Kingman Street
Yeah.
Classic, for an example,
Looking forward to that.
Kingman Fest, Maple Fest. I think that
I mean, farmers market,
Farmers
music, a lot of
market,
music
yep.
on the park.
Yep, I think that all really helps
Yeah.
bring people downtown,
Yeah.
and we shop downtown, probably not as much as we should, but
Yeah.
we do shop downtown. We're
Yeah.
a little bit more misers now that we're getting older.
Yeah, I hear you.
I used to pick on my dad about that, but So, I think the events really help. It's a wonderful downtown. We have very invested downtown owners.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. The city pitched in their share, and I think the business owners have pitched in their share too.
Yeah.
So, there's other communities around here that are starting to see a decline a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's really going to take some investment from the community, from taxpayers, I think,
Yeah.
to prop that up. I mean, St. Albans has been wonderful with that. We've been very fortunate. Taxpayers have been very willing to help out, and I think they're seeing some of that fruition now.
Yeah, boy, as someone who loves train, I've really gotten into train trips to DC, but I'm always picking on folks. Hey, I would just kill in my lifetime. I don't know if it'll happen to get the Amtrak from Monterey to Montreal. Supposedly there's some movement on that front, but boy, I guess I'm not holding my breath. But that to me would be just tremendous.
Yeah, I think it was really a Bernie thing, and with Bernie announcing he's retiring, we'll see if it gains traction.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Did that come up in my app? I just got back to 10. When did he announce that?
I don't know. I read about it somewhere not too long ago.
It's funny you mentioned it, because I was listening to WVMT, which I usually wake up with this morning, driving in from Franklin, and they were talking about. Becca Ballin was a guest on radio this morning, our one congressperson. And the reference was, well, we're just waiting for Phil Scott. That's the only announcement we haven't heard, whether he's running for re-election, the only kind of key person. And I'm saying, only key person, what about Bernie? So I guess I missed that when
I read somewhere that he is retiring.
I guess he did make.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't want to spread any false lies here.
I suspect you're right about that, but I'm stunned that none of my friends mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I bet he'll run again. Has he got something better to do? Although it looks like Democrats will, I think, very likely be just in the minority in the Senate. So I think House might actually go the other way. But well, thank you. It's funny. I wondered about that, because I'm saying, what about Bernie?
You better fact check that, though.
I will. But thanks for mentioning that. Boy, just talking about Vermont, we might have touched on it, but I mean, I wake up to the WVMT folks. I mean, I can count on a couple of callers just about every day saying, hey, I'm out of here. Give me another year or two, and I'm heading south. I cannot afford Vermont. I mean, you've heard this, but it really does sound like, with the housing, which we talked about, the education, funding situation, just sounds like it. I mean, I'm concerned. I don't worry about it. I'm fine, but my kid,
Yep.
and my kid's two siblings, one's in Philadelphia, one's in Las Vegas, but is that bigger concern to you now? It just seems like a huge issue.
It is a huge concern.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a place in St. Albans, a place in Franklin, and
Yeah.
we actually have a apartment building in Swanton. So
no, really?
yeah. So it is a big concern. Unfortunately, I think there's people out of state willing to snap up houses. So
that certainly seemed to be happening a bit, especially during
COVID.
The COVID
Yeah,
situation.
it was going wild there for a while. But I think the legislature, from what I've seen on TV and the news, legislature's heard the concerns.
Yeah.
Even the superintendent here put out a message. Even with the budget passed, it passed by the narrowest margin ever that I can remember. So saying, hey, we hear you loud and clear.
And school budgets, for the record, of course, MVU is still, 0 for 2. They're still down, and Enosburg, Richford got defeated again, and Champlain Island, Grand Isle County went down again.
So it's like, what can we do to ensure we maintain the quality of education? Because we have one of the best education systems in the country. Maintain that, but how can we make it? How can we reduce costs? I have thoughts. They're not very popular thoughts.
Really? So feel free. I'd love to hear them.
There's a lot of small schools that take up a lot of budget. So whether you have 100 kids or you have 300 kids, there's the costs that are very much the same. Of course, schools want to maintain, communities want to maintain control over their school system. So we heard that a little bit when we were talking about the merger here into Maple Run. We heard some of that, some of those concerns with Fairfield. Hey, we're just merging for Fairfield to get closed. So, I mean, when you're talking of a school of 30 kids, K through 6 or something similar, there's a lot of costs associated with that. And I don't believe the kids are getting the same the same quality of education. They're definitely not getting the same opportunity.
Yeah.
To play on sports teams or
Just
do
in
drama
in these
music.
smaller schools.
Yeah, with the smaller
Yeah.
schools is some of the bigger ones, but
Of course, you're Franklin headed, which of course is a key
small
part of
small
MVU,
school.
obviously.
Yeah,
and
it's a smaller school.
I
Yeah,
think Franklin LM, I think, has very, very good reputation.
they have a very good. They're
Yeah.
one of the best. I feel like one of the best schools in
Yeah.
the state. Yeah.
Boy, so concerned. I know I'm concerned. I've been up here. I'm no native son in Vermont, but up here almost half a century. But boy, it just sounds like it. I mean, it just sounds like crisis isn't a crazy word to throw out on. And of course, the governor, it just sounds like he gets so frustrated with the Democratic supermajority of the legislature and stuff. Of course, the last thing the education secretary kind of flapped. Any thoughts on that?
He's thrown a lot of vetoes. I think
Yeah.
he may have broken the record. I heard.
I think he did. And of course, the Senate 19-9 again. I think Zoe
Against
Saunders.
his-
I think.
yep.
And then the governor in the next minute or so. Well, I'll make her interim.
Yep.
And I guess not entirely clear how long.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not totally clear on that.
Yeah, and I don't know. They said there might be some.
Are you sympathetic to the?
I don't think it's governmental wise. I don't think it's good when we have a supermajority.
Yeah.
I really wish.
I would tend to agree.
I really wish we had.
Don't blame Franklin County on that.
No,
a 13-member legislative delegation, 12 of whom
Republicans.
are Republicans. Only Mike McCarthy, who's my rep in St. Albans City, the only demo right now.
Yeah, but I wish we had more independent-minded folks
Sure.
in Montpelier and in Washington, obviously.
I would kill for that.
yeah.
Moderate, independent. I feel. Yeah, I mean,
And-
moderate folks. I mean, good, especially in primaries, national elections. I mean, gee, there's just a middle ground. I mean, good. I mean, good luck. There's just not that
Yeah.
many people
Yeah.
left.
I mean, it's not national politics.
Sure.
We see it too, and obviously you see it quite extensively with the Supreme Court. Not that we want to really get into that, but
Yeah.
you can pretty much guarantee 90% of which way they're going to vote,
Yeah.
one way or the other. So I wish it wasn't like that as much. I wish we had people that,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we're talking Vermont. Yeah, don't even get me going on national stuff. If you think I'm kind of discouraged about Vermont, don't even get me
Yeah.
going on that. Yeah, 435 congressional districts in the country, and maybe 10% or so are competitive.
Yep.
Oh, jeez, don't even
Yeah.
get me going there. What other issue? Chad, down to about another, boy, we could talk to you, we could talk all day here. Any other issue? How do you think the health department, how do you think the state did with COVID?
Oh,
And you were certainly immersed in that big time.
Yep, I think the governor did absolutely fantastic. He bucked the trend from some of his Republican colleagues in other states.
Yeah.
Dr. Levine did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Of course, all the people on the ground.
Is Dr. Levine still with us? I don't see
Dr.
him.
Levine is still with us,
Is that
yep.
right? Interesting.
Yeah, and of course, all the people on the ground. We had EMS. We had a lot of local health folks doing clinics.
Yeah.
Of course, you had folks. We had the National Guard helping out. So we had a lot of people doing that. It was a big response. It's a once in 100 years, right?
Wow.
We had the Spanish flu was almost 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of people stepped up. A lot of people got burned out. We saw a lot of transformation, especially from nursing positions and healthcare positions
Yeah.
immediately following. So, but I think Vermont did very well.
Yeah.
And still, I mean, it's not. We still get numbers of
In
how many
fact,
people.
it's funny we're talking about this. I've got I think I haven't heard that much. Maybe people are kind of COVIDed out, but I guess there's a new vaccine out. In fact, I'm getting the latest shot tomorrow, in fact.
Awesome.
But I sure haven't heard much about that.
No, you don't hear much. Measles, of course, was the thing
Yeah.
we've had a few weeks ago. So,
Yeah.
it's like the flu. We had,
Yeah.
it starts to get ingrained in our brain, just becomes part of our
Yeah.
normal routine every day. So,
Yeah.
but definitely encourage people to get vaccinated, and it'll really help. Might not, you still might get the flu or you might get COVID, but
Yeah.
greater possibility that the symptoms will be much less.
Yeah. We mentioned off air the Swanton situation. Swanton got a lot of attention at town meeting day with Swanton Village. I think the first guy, Neil Spear, the longtime village president, I guess the first time he had a contested race that he narrowly lost to.
Yep.
David Winchester.
Yep.
And of course the public safety facility went down hard. I just
Yep.
knew that was going down, but Yeah, the folks went for it. They clearly is a need there, but you've been paying some attention to that
Yep,
situation?
yep, because obviously we have a vested interest in.
No, you mentioned your vested interest.
We
Is
have,
that in
yeah.
Swanton Village or the?
Yep, Swanton Village on Greenwich Street.
really?
I call it
Oh.
Greenwich Street, but my wife calls it Greenwich Street.
Interesting.
So
Have you had that for a long time?
we got it, I want to say 2017 or 18.
Oh, really?
Yep.
How many units, Jan?
Just two. Just
Oh,
a duplex.
really?
I needed a place to ship my kids once they were 18, so that's where they moved to.
But you do indeed have a vested interest.
Yeah. So we did. We went
Huh.
to one of the informational
Oh,
meetings.
really?
My wife and I.
For the
we
public,
were
for the public safety
for the public
facility?
safety. Yeah, I
Huh.
think they held 30. I want to say they held
Oh,
30
they
some
held
odd.
a
Ton of them.
a
We were
ton.
the only ones there for that one.
Really?
Unfortunately, we held them up for about an hour and 45 minutes because we had a lot of questions.
That's that point. It was just you pretty much.
Yeah, and we did the tour.
Wow.
You know,
No,
it's
they gave it a great. Unfortunately, some of it was obviously sticker shock.
yeah.
19 million. I think they even cut
They
that
cut
down.
I think they cut 4 or
Cut
5
about
million
five, yeah.
out of it. Yeah. You know, honestly, it's one of those things where you want to boost up your. I was talking about boosting up your
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
by making investments. Here, folks get off the interstate. That's the gateway to Swanton and the village. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is a gateway. When you drive by
Yeah.
and you see the old cement, the old Carroll factory,
Yeah.
and you know some of those buildings. I mean,
Yeah.
a couple nice new buildings there
Yeah.
would have given Swanton a whole different look.
Yeah.
And of course, when the community invests in their communities, you get other private people that want to invest as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, they got the old hotel that area. Of course, Gordon Winters has done.
Great job with
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
He's done in St. Albans City too.
I'm at Ace all the time
Yeah.
in Swanton. So you know, he's invested in his community. So maybe someone will step up and say, I don't know what they need. So
Yep, I talked to Bill Sheets, the Swanton Village manager, just real solid guy. Of course, key guy with state police for many years. But
yep.
yeah, I guess they're working. Yeah, they're trying to figure something out. But
Yeah. Unfortunately, really, probably, you know, interest rates too. I mean, even though they were
Not-
going through
not the
Vermont
best.
Bond Bank,
Yeah.
interest rates are up a little bit. Just
Wow.
2 points is a
Yeah.
lot of money.
yeah, and I think they're running into not just Swanton, probably everywhere. Some folks saying, "Hey, vote no, don't vote yes on anything." Things have just gotten. Boy, it's a tough situation out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and then, you know, I could talk all day about this, Richard, but
Yeah.
then they come to you and complain that the building, the house next to them looks like crap, and
Yeah.
you know, it's devaluing the value of their property.
Yeah.
Well, it's because we're not invested in our community. So,
Yeah.
you know, you drive around the neighborhoods in St. Albans, you drive around the neighborhoods now compared to what you did 15 years
Yeah.
ago, and it's quite an impact in just the neighborhoods as well.
So just very noticeable.
Very
Yeah,
noticeable.
I mean, I've been in the city since, again, mid-'80s or so, but
So we got, you know, people that are do construction and property maintenance. They're coming to fix up these buildings because
yeah,
people want to live in a nice building. They want to live in a nice neighborhood, and
yeah.
it's a great little city.
So we've touched on the historic agreement between the city and town, of course, with St. Albans City PD about to jump into St. Albans Town again, and the water sewer issue. I mean, that, you know, how much did you folks talk about that over the years? But I think it's got to be disappointing that didn't get resolved years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking, I'd hate to know how much money was spent on
Lawyers?
litigation,
Yep.
on lawyers for the city and town. If it's 7 figures, it wouldn't surprise me, but sure, it's hundreds of thousands.
I know it's
must have
hundreds of
been.
thousands.
Boy, so looking back on that, is that something, I mean, obviously a tough issue, but is that something that, I mean, should have been resolved years ago, or just a tough issue, obviously, huh?
It's obviously a historical issue,
Yeah,
and
it's a lot of feeling and not great
yeah.
feeling between the city and town in some respects.
yeah. And when I was right before I got on the city council,
Yeah.
I had told my wife the schools will have to merge before you see big progress with city and town, and I feel like that's exactly what happened. Maple Run
That's right,
happened,
interesting.
and
that's a good,
then
interesting point.
we saw this. So, you know, we see that aspect of it, and we hear about that in the papers. But the city and the town have worked closely together on many things over the years. So the fire departments work very closely. Public Works, very closely.
I think some of that got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
PW does great.
Yeah.
I think there's been more cooperation
Absolutely.
than people thought, but that issue just was always kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, but I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
our communities are connected. So, you know,
Well, I
the
mean,
city's
how
the
many people
nucleus.
right, if you run into somebody, if somebody, just came into St. Albans, and where do you live?
St. Albans.
How many people would say St. Albans City or St. Albans
No,
Town?
no.
Almost nobody.
Yeah, so you live in St. Albans. And, you know, when one has issues, the other one suffers as well. And when
Yeah.
one's being successful, the other one's successful.
Yeah.
So it's always been like that. And it just, I think there's some historical trauma or something there. And we've seen a little bit of change in leadership in the city and the town.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen some of that animosity dissipate.
Yeah, I can just, my many years dealing with Bill Chaffee, the late great St. Albans city manager, when we talk about stuff like this, and he's, Richard, it's the St. Albans community.
Yep.
Even though those issues were very hard at that point, he was St. Albans community. But no, it sounds like there's been some pretty good progress on that front.
Yep.
Do you ever hear the M word?
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
I haven't. I hear that in Swanton Village and Swanton Town once in a while, but I really never hear it in St. Albans.
Yeah. Well, state-wise, I think folks are headed the other way. Of course, with what happened in Essex.
Well, what a struggle down there. So Essex Junction finally is its own city now, I guess.
Yeah. But with I think the biggest factor is tax rate.
Yeah,
That's the biggest
probably
factor.
St. Albans town residents are just on the tax front probably not going to be real eager to.
No,
Yeah.
and
You're probably right about that.
yeah, and you know there are some things I think about, and you know they're touchy subjects like fire. You know, the fire departments. You know, if we had one.
I do hear the M. I mean, boy, that sounds like that might not be a crazy thing to do.
I don't think it'd be a
Of course,
wild
we have
thing to do.
Chief Mulheron is chief of both
Both,
departments.
yeah, and it's just I personally, I mean, I could be convinced.
And the
of
town
course,
looking at a new firehouse probably.
yeah, new firehouse. Why do we have 2 ladder trucks?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's just ladder trucks are expensive. So there's some equipment the town really needs that the city doesn't need. Like we don't need really a rescue. I mean, we don't have high-speed accidents in the city. So there's some you know, we need a pumper. They need tankers. So there is some differences, but man, it could be a lot of savings there. I feel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens down the road.
Yeah.
Down to under 2 minutes. I'm sure there's a ton of other stuff. Any other stuff you want to jump into for a minute or two?
No, I think I'm good. I want to thank you very much for inviting me on.
Well, thanks for coming. You've been a great guest. Shows like this are just fun for me.
Yep, and
Any again with Franklin coming up, you think you might try to jump into Franklin town government at some point?
No, one of my neighbors is Dave Benyon. He's a great
No, in fact,
guy.
I know.
Yeah, and of course his
Dave, who lost his I love Pam Green. Pam Green,
yeah.
what a sweetheart lady.
We absolutely, and
No,
actually,
Dave's a great guy.
actually, Pam is probably one of the reasons we moved to Franklin because
really?
we were viewing the property and we were waiting for our realtor, and Pam
Really?
came over and sold us on the area.
No,
So
is that right?
yeah,
No, great, a tremendous, terrible loss, but
Yep.
a great lady. I can, of course, go back when she ran for the Senate around here, a
Yep.
long ago legislative candidate.
Yep.
But Dave is, I've got good friends in Franklin who say, hey, if you ever need anything fixed, this guy is so
He is.
competent about anything, and I'm just the opposite. I love people like that. I'm glad people like that exist. I'm
Yeah.
just the other end of the spectrum.
If you get to see him again, ask him
Yeah.
for a tour of his workshop. He has
A
a
tour.
beautiful little workshop in the back of his house.
I bet he does. And he's still, of course, a select board member at this point.
He's a chair.
Oh, he in fact is a
Yep.
chair.
Yep.
Boy, it sounds
And the
like
keeper of the clock.
And the keeper of the clock.
Yes.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you have a good place to go, but I'm glad you still have a St. Albans connection and a Swanton connection.
Yep.
But again, Chad Spooner, former St. Albans City Council member, former City Council president. Thanks for the time. Covered a lot of ground. It was a fun conversation with you. Good luck. Hope I see you around.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks to producer Josh for doing all the hard work back there. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We appreciate you watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.